Hello everyone, it has been quite a while since I last filmed a YouTube video, and that is for a lot of reasons. The main one being, I finished up my senior year of college, and I graduated a little over a month ago now, and after I graduated, I ended up going to Ireland for 3 weeks. I went abroad, it was part of a study abroad trip that I did with school, and now I'm officially back. I've gotten back in the groove of creating content, I've had more free time, I've been working part-time, but I no longer have any school, which means I can finally get back into YouTube. I haven't posted since, I want to say, February for my iKarai vlog, and for a little update for you all, I will be vending at my next event hosted by the same people who are the leaders of UmiFest and any Umi-related events. I am going to be at Oaks Park on July 27th for their UmiFest mini convention, and I'm super excited about that. But for now, I have not one, but 2 completed sketchbooks to show you guys, because while I was in Ireland, we were required to keep a journal of our travels, our experiences, and everything that went down and everything that we did. So instead of just writing traditional journal entries, which I did do some, I got permission to make collages of my daily experiences on the trip. Since this one is shorter, I figure I'll go through the entire Ireland sketchbook first, and then we can walk through the big sketchbook. So we're going to start with this one. Starting with the sketchbook itself, this is initially a watercolor sketchbook, so the paper is a lot thicker, it's intended for painting, and I thought it would be the perfect size for me to use for the Ireland trip. I covered it in all sorts of stickers, and as you can see, because it's mostly collages, it is quite the chonker of a sketchbook. It doesn't want to close, it's very, very bulky, and this is my favorite way for a sketchbook to look. If it doesn't look chunky and if it doesn't want to close, not good enough for me. So this is the front, and this is the back. The back is more explicitly Ireland themed, whereas the front is more just general things that I'm interested in, somewhat water, somewhat travel, but also a little bit of nature. The very first thing I did in here was actually on the ferry ride over to Wales, because that was the first place we visited, and I drew Irish Hatsune Miku, because I figured, why not? Let's start off the sketchbook with a vibe and draw Miku, who I haven't really drawn all that much. So that was a fun little fairy challenge. And then some little entries here. Not gonna read through all these just because this is more like my personal experiences, has the names of some of my friends and things like that. So I'm mostly gonna be covering this up and showing off the collages. This was the first day of the trip. I got a Polaroid of my friends on the ferry, and you're gonna see a lot of Polaroids throughout here because my sister let me borrow her Polaroid. And every single day I took at least one Polaroid photo of our trip. So there's a lot of Polaroids in here of my friends, the places we went, some animals. There's so much cool stuff. For this first day, it was mostly just a travel day. So I have our airline tickets, I have some of our passes on the ferry, I have some other stickers and wrappers and things like that. So this was just a very simple start to the collages. As for day 2, this was my collage from when we arrived in Wales, and when we were in Wales, we mostly went hiking. We did this really cool hike all the way up to South Stack, which is this beautiful park area. It has this gorgeous lighthouse, there's lots of nature, very, very pretty. And so I started collecting lots of maps, brochures, packaging, anything I could find that would document where I've been and what I've seen. And so here I have some torn up brochures, some maps, some tickets. Here's my ticket to the lighthouse. I have a couple other things. This is the back of a postcard. This is also an illustrated part of a postcard right here. Have exactly where we were. We were in Holyhead. And then this is a picture of me and some of the other girls on the trip when we went out to breakfast at a little local cafe, along with some little Welsh sayings right here and how to say different phrases in Welsh. Here I have a smaller collage from our trip to Glendalough / the final day at Wales. We went on the ferry again, which took up most of the day, but I snagged my first sweater out of 7 that I got on the trip, and I collected some other things while we visited Glendalough. So I got my first wool sweater there, and I kept some of the tags from that, along with some other tags that had information about wool. Here's one of the places that we visited. We went to a little monastery, and so this is actually a little cutout from one of the brochures. Going forward to one of the far more interesting ones, this was when we were in Roskilde and we visited Skibbereen. So I have stuff from both the Skibbereen heritage sites as well as places that we went to in Roskilde. Here are some photos of a fancy dinner we had at a hotel, including the best sorbet I ever had in my life. It's champagne flavored. I started buying some stickers, so here you can see an Ireland sticker that I bought, some other things that I saw. Here we had a map of Skibbereen, some illustrations from the brochure that I got at the Famine Memorial and the Famine Museum. This is probably one of my favorites of the collages just because I love the texture and 3D nature of this. I bought so much stuff on this day when we were in Bunratty, and I kept the tags from the apparel that I bought along with the bread that it came with, because I like having something 3D like this that I can mess with. That's what makes a collage super cool to me, is having something super 3D like this. So I kept all of them. This one has this beautiful gold metallic embossed text on it. And then I have a map because we passed through Killarney National Park. Here's another postcard that I tore apart. Here's some other parts of that. Then this was a waterfall that we went to. This is a continuation of that day. We went to a lot of places on this day. We visited a castle. We saw a swan up close, which I've never seen a swan in person before, so that was very neat. We saw horse-drawn carriages. Then we actually did go to this medieval castle banquet, which was super fun. Then over here was when we visited the Cliffs of Moher, and we started making our way to the Aran Islands. We stayed on Inishmore, so I have a map of the 3 islands here. Again, we were on Inishmore, this bigger one here. And then some other stuff like the ferry that we rode on. I have another little Polaroid here of another tower that we visited. I didn't get as much of the Cliffs of Moher themselves just because I took plenty of photos, but I have a lot for the Aran Islands, which is over here on this next one. This was our free day on the Aran Islands, so we stayed at the camping and glamping site in these little pods, which were very cozy, a little small, but they worked really well. Me and my friend Allie went and hung out on the beach. We found lots of sea glass and fun rocks. We went shopping. I went to the Aran Sweater Market. Moving on to the next one, I believe we have Galway. Yep, so this is our evening in Galway, and I got a lot of the stuff from the place that we went to dinner because it was such a cute restaurant. This translates to Red Cat, and it was absolutely phenomenal. They had great food, super cozy atmosphere. The interior of the restaurant was all cat themed. It was so nice. And when I went there, I actually booked a tattoo appointment at this place, Obsidian Arts, and I got not 1 but 2 tattoos over there. So this is just one of them, and then I have another one on my side. That was super fun and I loved it. It was so great. This is where we stayed while we were in Galway. It was one of the best places that we stayed at personally. Not the best. We'll be getting to that very soon though. Moving right on, we do get to the very next place, the best place in my personal opinion that we stayed. This is when we went through Gwengola and then later arrived in Letterfrack. And Letterfrack was my absolute favorite place because we stayed in these adorable little cottages. This one was ours with the ivy hanging off the roof. It was just so aesthetic, so pretty, and so cute. I loved it. We visited Bridget's Garden, which is this beautiful botanical garden. It has so much folklore and history and heritage in it. It was so beautiful. And then the next day, we visited Kylemore, which is a massive national park area. And they have this really beautiful castle/abbey, because it's been both before. Along with big botanical gardens, they have a Gothic style church there. So of course I went and I took a Polaroid of the actual castle. This was of one of the greenhouses, and then this is the Gothic church that I mentioned, a big closer up photo. We passed through Connemara National Park, so I have some maps from there. I have an actual map of the botanical gardens. I did see some of the butterflies that are hiding here underneath all of these other elements. I did see this blue one, got very excited when I saw that. Moving on, I have a much smaller collage from when we started moving ahead through Mayo and then eventually up through the northern part of Ireland. So this is when we passed through Westport, I believe. Yes, this is when we passed through Westport, which is this really beautiful, really fun little town where we found a lot of really good food, a lot of great gifts and things like that. This was when we arrived in Bundoran, which is Ireland's main beach town, and there was so much fun stuff here. We spent the entire day hanging out in an arcade. We had a picnic lunch on the beach. We went to an amusement park afterwards, which is why I have so many tickets, because riding is done entirely through tickets. So I kept a whole bunch of them. I had coffee and got a little stamp card. This is one of the tickets that I kept from the arcade. I have a photo from our view at the hostel we were staying at. This was a little postcard that I got at one of the coffee shops. And then I won some Minecraft related things, so I kept the tags from that too. This was just a really fun day because we got to do so much stuff in such a small area, and it was a free day, so we could go at our own pace. It was very, very fun. I think this is just writing, and then here we move on to the Giant's Causeway as we get to Northern Ireland. So here we pass through Derry/Londonderry, depending on what side of the political spectrum you're on when it comes to the state of Ireland. We went to the Peace Museum, we visited the Giant's Causeway, and we moved further north to Belfast. This concludes the sketchbook because the trip itself wasn't done. I had to move into doing the collages in the other sketchbook, in my bigger one, because I ran out of space in this one. So there's more to the trip. So for now I have to put that on pause though, because I didn't get to collaging in this one until closer to the end of this sketchbook. So we will get back to talking about my Ireland trip, but that's it for now. And I did really want to show this one off just because, like, I don't want to say, hey, I went to Ireland for 3 weeks and then not show anything for it. Plus, I love the way this turned out. This lets you see a bit more of, like, my personal side and the things that I enjoy doing, the things that I'm experiencing outside of just drawing all the time. So that's sketchbook number 1. Technically more of a collage scrapbook than a sketchbook, but hey, art is art, and collage is a huge form of art for me, and if you know me personally or have seen my work in person, you'd know that my senior show, which I did as my senior thesis project for graduating college, had a giant 7-foot by 7-foot collage. So if you want to see that, you can check out my social media because I have all sorts of stuff about that there. So if you want to see what I can really do when it comes to collages, go check that out. Alright, now we move on to sketchbook number 6. This is my 6th ELO sketchbook that I've used throughout my art career, and it usually takes me about a year to fill out a sketchbook-ish. Sometimes less, so if that gives you a perspective, I've been using these sketchbooks since high school, so this is a brand I've loved for a very, very long time. And as you can see, there's a bit of a theme across the front and the back. The front is very nature focused with fish and bugs, whereas the back is more anime themed, just things in general that I like. Moving on into it, if we open up the front, you'll see the moth obsession continues. These are Cecropia moths, and I did some moths at the end of my previous sketchbook, and I wanted to continue that trend and keep drawing moths. So these are my Cecropia moths. Over here, there's a lot of preliminary sketches and notes for my senior thesis project. I started this sketchbook in August for context, so this is around the time that I was planning out what pieces do I really want to have in this show, how do I want to form different pieces to represent the things I want to talk about in this show. So the first few pages have a lot of just random sketches for senior thesis, along with notes for senior thesis. I have a finished digital drawing that I printed out of my love, Suigetsu from Naruto, in a modern surfer fit, because come on, we know that Suigetsu would be a surfer in real life. So this is personally one that I still really love. It's been almost a year since I drew it, and I still love it to this day. And I have the sketch for it hiding in here. This was all different concepts that I created for a group graphic design project for one of my classes. Unfortunately, none of these were used, but I still did a lot of ideation anyway. There's even more behind this one, but again, another illustration that I printed out that I had done at the time of Sasori and Datara. This is a little collage of things that I collected on our yearly beach trip with the family. I have some more Suigetsu sketches here, then another sketch for that big graphic design project. Again, none of these were used, which is still very disappointing for me because that project did not go very well, but you know, I could always take these concepts and do something with it later. But moving forward, if you can't tell that I have favorites, I did a whole sketchbook spread of Suigetsu because he's adorable. I love him. Look at how silly he is. He was so fun to draw. I've not really drawn a ton of the Naruto cast before this. I'm very I'm very much usually stuck into the lens of like, oh, I want to draw Sasori and Deidara, and I want to do Team 7, but I like so many of the other characters, and especially with me committing to doing a whole Naruto product launch for the unforeseen future where I release stuff for most of the cast, this was important to me, and even though I don't plan to release anything with Suigetsu for a long time, he's still one of my personal favorites, so I'm going to continue to make art of him. So this is a little bit of what I did, and continued on to the next page, where I did some sketches of him in other poses. This is that original sketch that I told you about, which I did all the way back here, so you can see how it started versus how it ended. And then I also really like this one. I'm gonna probably do something with this one in the future with Barista Suigetsu, because I love that concept, so I want to do something more with that. Another reason why I stepped away from YouTube for a little while, for about 3 months or so, is because I was in storyboarding and concept design back in the fall, and I created a whole new series of original characters and a whole new plotline for a story I plan to turn into a novel trilogy. This is something that I've fully committed to. It's something I'm very excited about. And these were the very first preliminary sketches I did of the main character. So you're going to see a lot of stuff from my original characters going forward in the sketchbook, and it's going to be one of my main focuses in the majority of my artwork going forward. I'm going to be doing a lot more with my OCs. And as you can tell, there's a lot of birds here. So if you're unfamiliar with what I've been posting on my other social medias lately, or anything that I've been doing anywhere recently, you would know that I have bird-based characters. So all of my original characters are either harpies, which are half human, half bird, or they're what I'm calling insectoids, which are half bug, half human hybrids. And the world that me and my classmates created is that all of the harpies live on these floating islands. They study magic. They're in the middle of a conflict with the bug people on the ground. And that was the extent of the world that we created. We were all supposed to create our own original characters from that concept, and from that, I created my OC. He basically became the inspiration for this whole new series and world that I've crafted, and created a whole cast of original characters. So you can see I have a turquoise green-cheeked conure here, and that's the bird that I chose to base my main character off of. So if you haven't seen him before, this is Meriden Rise. He is a astral magic student or celestial magic student. He studies star magic, and he is very teal, again, based on the turquoise variant of the green-cheeked conure, and his entire storyline is inspired by one of my favorite songs. The song is Icarus by Starset. Starset has been my favorite band since middle school. I got to meet them in person back in March during an exclusive VIP event, and I actually brought my artwork of all my original characters for them to sign, because after creating Meriden, every other character I created for this story is based off of songs from the same album that Icarus is based on. So this is Meriden, and he is probably my favorite OC I've ever made. I absolutely love him. Here I have a little bit of a collage from Rose City Comic Con from back in September. I went with my friend Addie and collected a lot of things, spent a lot of money, and I made a little collage of various different bits of packaging, some little business cards, some ribbons, just fun things that I like to collect, things that I don't like to throw away. I was also approached by GSJJ around this time to do a collab to create some enamel pins with them. So I decided I wanted to do a moth design, as seems to be pretty predictable for me at this point. So these were my initial sketches of various different types of moths. I knew I wanted to do a celestial themed moth with moons and stars and things like that, so I just played around with different types of moths, different moth shapes, and eventually came up with a design for the enamel pin. We get to a whole bunch of thumbnail sketches. This was for my next assignment for that storyboarding class. We were supposed to create an environment, and I decided that I wanted to do Meriden's bedroom later on, but I started by sketching different concepts for the floating islands, what different scenes could look like for that, and then figuring out different compositions and layouts and ideas for Meriden's bedroom. And I'm not great with perspective, I'm not great with placing characters in environments, it's something that I still really need to work on, so this was a huge challenge for me. If I wanted to completely cheat, I would have just gone this way and done something super, like, vibrant and something super, like, fake detailed, if that makes sense. Like, implying details, like, that's something you can do with more of an exterior environment, whereas with an interior, everything needs to be very proportionally accurate. And I did challenge myself. I went and I did an interior. And I'm very proud of how that turned out, because I don't really do interiors. Here's some sketches of Sorcery and Data, just some very simple ones that I did on a random day. Very cute, had fun with those. I have some sketches of Rockley and Gara, and these two were the next two characters that I planned to release in my shop launch. So these were some sketches I was doing of the keychain designs, some sticker designs, etc. So I did some expressions of both of them in my chibi style. Here I did another collab with Stationery Pal, along with some other graphic design related sketches. So here I have various different items that I got from Stationery Pal. Then this was a collage that I made when I went on a student beach trip, basically. So every year the art department goes on a beach trip for a few days, and this was my series of collages from the days that we spent on the trip. So I have all sorts of the activities that we did, some photos that I got, we saw some deer, I left some little commentary on things such as saying ew awful to the Cybertruck, got some ice cream, I kept some of the packaging once again, some receipts. Then just rounded off the day with like other things that we saw, again using white to really make it pop. These were some sketches for a branding project that I did where we rebranded Spirit Airlines. The full branding project for that is on my website. I'm not going to talk too much about my graphic design stuff other than saying like, oh hey, here's sketches I did for that. Because you can go see all of my graphic design stuff on my website if you're really curious about that. On the way back from the art beach trip, I did some sketches of Rock Lee and then I colored them later on. So if I am ever able to meet Rock Lee's English voice actor, I left a space here for him to sign it because that's something I've been doing like permanently at this point. Is if I draw a character in here and make a whole sketchbook spread, I'm going to make sure that someone can sign it later on. Because I got to meet Johnny Young Bosch, who voices Sorcery, and there was barely any space for him to sign it, so now I know to leave space so that way people can actually sign on my sketchbook. Moving forward, here's some sketches that I did of thumbnails for a very short animatic that I made of Meriden, along with a sketch of him in his secondary outfit because he has a before and after phase. He has before with his wings, his beautiful outfit with all the ruffles and the rounded edges, but then he makes a big mistake and he gets his wings cut off and he's thrown off his island. And he's forced to try to survive in the land of the very hostile dogs. So this is what he looks like after he falls. He's lost his wings, he doesn't have the white shirt anymore. Yeah, he goes through a lot. I'm kind of mean to my characters. I love them, but I'm also mean to them. This is actually something that came later on. I did this much later. This is more like jumping forward to December. Underneath this, I have a whole bunch of different thumbnail sketches for a Princess Bride animatic that we did in my storyboarding class, but on top of this are some sketches for another one of my OCs. This is my original sketches for Meriden's best friend slash lover, one of his two lovers. I don't want to give that away too much yet. I have some other stuff yet. I have some other stuff in here that I haven't shown off yet. But this character's original name was Nove Albernac. I fell in love with the name Nove, but the more I started developing this character, I realized the name just didn't really fit, so I ended up switching the name later, but I played around with a lot of different hairstyles and ideas for this one. This one is based on a Hyacinth Macaw, and he is a lunar magician, so he studies moon magic, and I wanted to really emanate that darker aesthetic that the moon typically gives off, but still have that very playful vibe of the Hyacinth Macaw. So this is something that I experimented a lot with for his character design, and this is very similar to what I ended up with eventually. Again, more sketches for a graphic design project. This one was branding for a fictional anime convention, and I got to design a mascot character for it, and I did a very simple logo design, but this turned out to be one of the coolest projects I've ever done. So again, if you want to see that, go check that out on my website, because I'm very proud of how this turned out. But this is just the bare bones of what this project turned into. Here I have some sketches of my antagonist character, the Reaper. And fun story, this initially started as me designing a costume for myself. The Death's Head Hawk Moth is my favorite type of moth, and me being the dark whimsigoth aesthetic person that I am, I wanted to make a costume design for myself that was of a Death's Head Hawk Moth. And when I was drawing myself in this costume, especially with this mask, I realized this would make a really cool character design. This would be a very scary and threatening antagonist. So I went and I turned that into the actual antagonist for my story with Meriden. And so this character became the Reaper. And they are a very scary antagonist in my series. I did go back and I did actually create the full costume for this. I spent the spring doing an independent study in costume design so I could get back into my love for sewing, learning how to actually do design for myself, how to create my own patterns, and I ended up making a very cool Death's Head Hawkmoth costume for myself that I wore very recently to the Ren Fair. And I'm very proud of it. So it was really cool to see just how full circle this entire spread has gone, because it started as a costume for me, became a character, and then it became a costume for myself again. So that was really, really fun to see. Moving ahead again, I have some more thumbnail sketches of some story beats for the second animatic that I was making for Meriden, and then I designed his sister, Lillian. She is just a couple years younger than him, but I wanted them to have that little trope of they look so alike that people think that they're twins most of the time. I love that dynamic, I think it's great. And so here she is. She's also a turquoise green cheek conure, but her personality differs quite a lot from Meriden's. She's a lot more outgoing, she's a lot more friendly, a lot more spontaneous and spunky. She's so adorable, I love her. Everyone else loves her. She is so cute. Here are a ton more sketches for the animatic itself, just a ton of thumbnail sketches, very, very rough. And so this is just like one of several spreads of just those. These are some more story beats that I then drew a little bit more detailed. I took some of them from a couple pages back and I just did more with them than I created them digitally. So 4 of these, I believe it was these, actually all 4 of these became story beats. And then these are some sketches that I did for the department art market. The students in the art department host a holiday market every year, and in years past, I've helped with some of the signage and things like that, but I was like, hey, I'd really like to do all of the branding this year. So I was able to do all of the graphic design for it. And these were some of the bare bone sketches that I did, and what I created was completely different. There's a couple more sketches over here alongside the different thumbnails that I did, so again, more stuff for the animatic with Meriden, and then here I have some more sketches of the logo. This is the one that I tried to emanate, and then turned into something completely different once I started doing it digitally. Here I have some artwork that I did of Queen Tyranny. She is from Duck Dodgers, which is a Looney Tunes spin-off series set in outer space, where Daffy Duck, Porky Pig, and Marvin the Martian are all space commanders, and Daffy and Porky are fighting against Marvin and the Martians, and this is the Martian Queen, and I love her. She's so gorgeous. I love her. I want her so bad. So I did some fan art of her because I adore her with all of my being. She's so cool. She's amazing. I love her. Again, more sketches for the animatic with Meriden, covered up a little bit by some of the stickers just because the art I did on the next page bled through quite a bit, but these are just more sketches for frames that are in that final animatic if you'd like to go watch that. These are even more sketches. I said there'd be a lot, and I was not wrong. There are quite a few. These are some designs that I did for a theoretical wedding dress for myself. I currently am not in a relationship, and I have never been in a relationship, but because I went to my friend's wedding when I did all of these frames and this, I was very inspired to create my dream wedding dress, and this is exactly what I would want to wear. I would want something completely non-traditional. I would want something red, I'd want it to be adorned in gold, and I'd want it to be a celestial aesthetic, so this is my ideal wedding dress. Here I have more sketches for another graphic design project. This is a different one than the holiday market that I did branding for. My family and I have owned the same Christmas tree since before I was alive. It was initially my grandmother's, and she gave it to my parents, and we've had it ever since. Last year, it finally decided that it was done, and we decided we'd have to go get a new Christmas tree for the first time in our lives. And so the quest to find a Christmas tree gave me exposure to a lot of different Christmas tree companies and their branding, and it was not good. There's not very many Christmas tree companies with excellent branding out there. So I was very inspired to create my own fictional Christmas tree supplier company and create the branding for it. Here's some more close-up sketches of that dress that I did before, along with an idea for the headdress, the earrings, some of the lace on the sleeves, and just more of a side profile shot so you can actually see the vision that I have in mind for it. Here I have even more sketches. This was for the latter half of the animatic where everything was going to be framed in red. After this, I went and I did some artwork of one of my top literally me characters, Bernard the Elf from the Santa Claus. He's always been such a vibe. Everyone else has always been in love with him as a child. I wanted to be him as a child, and I finally did some fan art of him. I relate to him a little too much. He is quite literally me. In the best possible way. He is very much me. And I love how complex his outfit is. There's so many intricate details. The color palette is immaculate. So I had a very fun time drawing him in my style. It took quite a long time to do, but I'm really happy with this. This was some redesigning that I did of one of my very, very first OCs. This is from so long ago that the only place you can find stuff for this OC is really, really, really far back on my TikTok. So I was completely redesigning this character. Her name is Arlen Alexiev, and she is the spirit of autumn. She is from a Rise of the Guardians fanfiction that I started writing when I was about 15, and I've completely turned around her character design and created something completely new for her, and eventually, I would like to do something completely different that's Rise of the Guardians adjacent with her, just because I have some other ideas that don't really fit within the lore of Rise of the Guardians that I think would be really cool. So she's a character that is currently on pause, but I have a lot of ideas for her, and I'm very, very excited about her. And then the next page jumps back to that character that I was telling you about before. He is no longer Nove. He has been renamed to Corian, aka Coriander, but no one calls him that. He hates his full name. So he goes by Corian, Cori, or Cor, and this is the design that I came up with for him. You can see I did a couple little concept sketches here of different outfits for him, and this is the one that I settled on and liked the most. So you can see all these other sketches that I did of him, potential expressions, different ways of embellishing his clothes. So he has a very blue look overall, matching the bird that he's based on, with gold and yellow highlights. This is expanding a little bit on the costume design for myself, with a little bit more intricacy and details put into the design of the wings, figuring out how I wanted them to look, and the overall silhouette of the outfit, including the mask. Here I have some concepts for the next original character. His name is Aravis Nara, and he is based on a blackwing lori, which is a Indonesian bird species. And you can see I had a ton of ideas going through my head when designing this character. I knew I wanted him to have large ears to some capacity. I wanted to really highlight the fact that he's red, that he has red eyes, because up to this point all of my characters have had gray eyes, because the way that I've been designing these characters is I try to make them as accurate to the bird species as possible, so their skin tone is whatever the color of the skin on their legs is, their eyes are usually the color of the bird's eyes, and their beaks are usually the color of the beaks. That's what I do. I like to reflect the reality of the bird that I'm drawing inspiration from for these designs. And another fun thing about these birds is that they have bright red noses. Like, their beaks are bright red. This is actually, these two are the wrong bird. This one is the correct one. This one's also wrong. They just look very similar. So for color matching, I used these, but the blackwing lori itself is right down here. So this is the one that I took the primary inspiration from. And you can see I fiddled around with whether or not I did or didn't want the red nose, if I wanted to go with more of a blue skin tone, and eventually I settled for this darker gray color. And you can see I experimented with some outfits down here, and this is the one I landed on. I played with using a blue top, a red top, more of an open jacket style, and eventually I went with this very sleek look, this very elegant off-the-shoulder design. And the only thing that I changed after this was the hair and the ears. Here I have a little sketch of Corian and Meriden together. Here you can see the finished digital render of Corian with Meriden, along with the lyrics that Corian has in the song that inspired him. Here I have some more stuff of Erebus. So this is where I started playing with more of like the bigger ears, but I was running into a bit of a situation where he started to look a little bit like Alistair from Hazbin Hotel, and I don't really like Hazbin Hotel, I don't really like Fizzy Pop, so I wanted to ignore that as much as possible. You can see tons of little notes here that I left to myself about this. So I did a ton of different hairstyles, I did a ton of different orientations for the ears, and ultimately I decided I really like this little sketch down here. I like this quite a lot. So I decided to go with this left-leaning hairstyle with a shorter look, which is a little bit different from my other characters I created up to that point, because Meriden has long hair, Corian has shoulder-length hair, and Lillian has long hair. The Reaper doesn't count, they have short hair, but different style than this. And this came off as very unique in terms of the silhouette, and so this is what I went with. Here we have, again, more design sketches for a graphic design project that I did where I redesigned a logo for a company. Here I have some artwork of Shadow, because back in February I went to Anime Washington and I got to meet Kirk Thornton, who voices not just Shadow, but also Kisame from Naruto, and I got him to sign both pages of my sketchbook along with some quotes. And I don't usually draw Sonic characters all that much. I find drawing them really hard, and I can't tell you why. I can't wrap my brain around these guys, but I love Shadow. He's my favorite Sonic character, if the red and black didn't imply that already, but he is my favorite Sonic character, and so getting to meet the voice actor for him was absolutely phenomenal. Same with Kisame. I feel like there's not enough Kisame appreciation out there, and Kisame is my third favorite Akatsuki member. Obviously Sasori and Deidara have a bit of an advantage, but Kisame is my number 3. And initially, Hidan's voice actor was going to be there too, but he got sick. So unfortunately, I didn't get him to sign the artwork that I did of Hidan, but I'm still very proud of this, because I'd never drawn Hidan up until this point. Well, I had drawn him once. I'd drawn him for my Naruto Christmas sweater series that I did, but I'd never drawn him in his real authentic form, so that was a bit new for me. Here I have some artwork of a rosy maple moth. Again, keeping up with the moth trend, I think rosy maple moths are the cutest thing in the world. They're so adorable and fluffy, I love their colors, and I want to do some like non-layered artwork in the future of rosy maple moths to turn into an eventual moth launch, because I want to do more moth products eventually. I love them, I think they're so cute, people love them too. So later on in the future, there will be a moth drop, and rosy maple moths will be a part of it. Doing some stuff with rosy maple moths got me interested in creating a rosy maple moth for my world. So this is some of the concepts that I have for a rosy maple moth character that will be working as a bartender at the little tavern that Meriden is staying at when he falls to the ground. I'm thinking a multiple armed character, very reliant on the pink and yellow color palette, but nothing too fancy just because this is on the ground. They have a much harsher lifestyle down there. So I don't want her to be too soft, I don't want her to be too adorable. There definitely has to be more work that goes into her design than this. So I'm gonna be doing more concept work of it, but for now this is all I have for that currently unnamed character. On the next page we have some artwork of Ronald Knox. I did this in class, and it was so fun because the girl that I was sitting next to, she was one of my friends who went on the trip with me. She also really likes Black Butler and knew exactly who I was talking about. And so she was glancing over her shoulder the entire time, being like, draw the lawnmower, draw the lawnmower. I'm like, but I don't like drawing machinery. And so this is what I did. I really love drawing Ronald Knox. I love his outfit, I love his hair, he's just so fun to draw. These were some sketches for my big graphic design project that I did for basically the entirety of last semester. These were my concepts for fictional branding for Miskatonic University. If you don't know what that is, Miskatonic University is the fictional university that H.P. Lovecraft created for his entire Cthulhu Mythos world, and Lovecraft is the creator of cosmic horror, essentially. There's other people who have created cosmic horror genre-related things before him, but he's really considered the true father of cosmic horror. And before I progress further with talking about this, I do have to say, yes, I completely understand that Lovecraft was racist beyond belief. Like, you would not believe the lengths that this man went to He was so racist that the other racists at the time had to tell him to stop and to chill because he was so insane. So I completely understand that Lovecraft himself was not a good person. So getting that out of the way, I still really love his work. I love cosmic horror. So this was a project that meant a lot to me personally and really fed into a ton of my personal interests. And so I went and I created a whole branding project themed around that fictional university. Here I have some more moth sketches. These are a couple different types of moths. I have a cinnabar moth and a Virgin tiger moth here. I actually saw a cinnabar moth and caught it while I was in Ireland, which was so fun because I didn't even know they were local to Ireland. But there was one right there on the Aran Islands when we were walking around, and one of my friends got an excellent photo of me with it. It was amazing. Dream come true. Here I have some more sketches of Saucery and Daedra, and this is the first time I've ever drawn anyone kissing, believe it or not. This is the very first time I've ever done that, so yay me. I drew this in church, by the way. It's so fun. Here I have some sketches for the next original character to join the cast. This one is based on a Gala parrot, and I decided to make her name be Galia, which is obviously just a spin on the actual Gala parrot name, but I thought it was a very gorgeous name. She is, like Erebus, a magic student. She is a lunar magic student, just like Meriden and Corian, and so she is the mentor of Corian. And she is also a model. She's very, very popular. She's also sapphic, so love her. I got to draw my dream lady for this character. And she's very inspired by Marilyn Monroe, a little bit of Sabrina Carpenter, a little bit of Vera Allen. I am in love with her. I love her so much. So these are some of the original concepts I did for her. Then expanding on that, these were the original outfit designs I created for her. I eventually went with a longer skirt design that mimics one of Marilyn Monroe's dresses that she wore. This just was a little too youthful to me, not quite as elegant as I wanted to go for with this character. However, in the artwork that I did that was signed by Starset, she's wearing this outfit because at the time, I hadn't finalized her design before going to the concert, so I had this concept already done, and I was like, okay, her design isn't officially done yet, but I'll use this for the artwork, and then I'll finish her design afterwards. So the artwork that Starset signed is of her non-official preliminary design. Her later design, though, has a much longer mermaid-style skirt, very elegant, very flowy, so dramatic. I love her. Even though this isn't the outfit that I went with for her, I adore her. She's so gorgeous. I love her with all my heart. Here's a bunch of other random sketches of things. So I've got some more stuff for Miskatonic. These are the final renders of Galia. Here's her chibi form, and then here is her in a pinup pose, because like I mentioned, she's a model, and she is pretty. So I wanted to make her look very pretty and feel very pretty. Here I have some sketches for the next girl to join the cast. These are some sketches for Soleil, and the next page I'm pretty sure is of Soleil, but quickly I wanted to show you a little brochure that I made as one of the wrap-up pieces for the project. So this is the finalized logo that I went with for the design. They have a octopus mascot, obviously themed after Cthulhu. His name is Cully, so that's what I went with for this one. This is the font that I chose. This is just a little brochure with information about the school, the various different majors and concentrations, a little bit of an introduction, sports, food, entertainment, clubs, etc. A little bit of a description on the back. I'm just very happy with how this turned out. This is one of the coolest projects I've ever done. It's tied with the anime convention project for my favorite. So again, go check it out on my website if you want to see the full scope of this, because I did so much for this project. I had several months to do stuff for this project, so I went full out, and then this is just a mini version of that brochure. But this, go check this out, because this is one of, personally, my favorite projects I've ever done. Like I mentioned, we have some stuff for Soleil. So I already knew going in I wanted Soleil to be based off of a moon chic conure, And a mooncheek conure is basically, if you can tell by this photo, it is a pastel rainbow bird. And I was so entranced by the idea of creating a rainbow character. And so these were some of my sketches for her. I wasn't sure quite what I wanted to do with her hair yet, if I wanted it to be longer, if I wanted it to be pulled back into a bun or anything like that. So initially I played with a couple different ideas, a couple different types of clothing options. I made her eventually be a very short character. So she is the shortest character in my cast, and I think I've made her very cute and very angelic. So in these initial concepts, I was playing with more of like a general rainbow color palette, but as I started rendering her out, I realized that blue is actually kind of contradicting to the other colors that are in her palette. So her final palette is light yellow, light green, and light pinks. Those are really the main colors in her palette once I finished her render. You can see some poses here of her with her skirt. I was playing around with a couple different types of sashes and things like that while I was designing her, but these are just some expressions, her in her chibi form. This is a design that I'm in love with. Everyone else absolutely loves her too. I don't think I have the sticker of her in here, but she is adorable. She is so cute. She is the favorite character of a lot of my friends and a lot of people who have seen my cast. So clearly I did something right with her. She is the character that is in an arranged marriage with Meriden. And she doesn't know if she's totally for this at first. She doesn't know how to feel about an arranged marriage. But after she meets Meriden, she actually does fall in love with him. And so she and Corian wage war on each other over Meriden's heart. She is the head over heels lover trope, but with far more depth to her. There is so much lore written for her, and I can't wait to share it. There's so much. There is so much. I love them. I love them so much. Here I started playing around with the idea of some pieces where all of my characters are posed behind some stained glass windows that reflect their lore. I did use this in a little bit in a later piece that I didn't sketch in here. I did it entirely digitally. It's a very cool piece, so I'll be sure to flash it up on screen so you can actually see it. But it is a piece of Meriden, Corian, and Soleil, and they have these stained glass windows behind them that reflect their individual stories and lore. So if you want to see that, that should be on the screen right now. I love that piece. It's one of my absolute favorites. Then these are some sketches for Meriden and Lillian's parents. So these are some sketches for the mother, and then the father, who I actually based on Baby No Money, because he's an icon. So the father, Alejandro, is based off of Alex, aka Baby No Money. Yep, so that's a thing. And then we have the final character so far that I've created for this series. This is Professor Andreas, and he's a character that I've had an idea for a very, very long time. Corian was the 4th character I conceptualized. Andreas was the 5th. So he was very early on in the lore. I wanted to have this character for a very long time. And so he is based on an African gray parrot, and he's significantly older than the rest of the cast. And I haven't really drawn old people in my style before, so this was a very fun challenge to play with wrinkles, but still make him look very distinguished and temperamental, because that's the type of character that he is. And so these are my sketches I did for him, figuring out how I wanted to do his hair, what exactly I wanted to do with his wings, because he has damaged wings. He can't fly anymore. So that's a big part of his character, playing around with his outfit a little bit. And this is pretty much what the final render ended up looking like. This is almost 1-for-1 with what he looks like. Oh my god, how long has it been to the side like that? I hope you guys were able to see all of that, because frankly, I don't want to go back and re-record all of that. Well, I guess we'll see once I'm editing how that goes. Moving on, I did the starter pack no AI trend, but physically in my sketchbook. I never posted it. This is just something fun I did for myself on a random day. So I did a little design of myself, put it onto foam, and then I attached it to the sketchbook. Then of course the little sketchbook in here is 3D, and it's literally just a recreation of the cover of this sketchbook, but with a marker. I have some of my favorite snacks, I have a little shadow plushie, my iPad, and my water bottle. Here I have some sketches of InoShikaCho and Choji, because my next shop launch is a InoShikaCho launch, so I was drawing one of my favorite trios out of the Naruto cast and figuring out how I want to draw them in my style. Here's some more stuff that I did on the Ireland trip. When we were there, we passed by several little fairy villages and fairy cottages. It was so adorable. And so I started doing some designs for little fairy houses. So here we have one made out of things that you would find like just in America, like a McDonald's Happy Meal box, a Pringles can, soda can, things like that. This one is made out of a mailbox, this one's a flower pot, then this one is made out of a stump. Here I have a little sketch I did of Lillian combing Soleil's hair, very adorable, very fun. And then over here, I did some sketches of Mark and Nathaniel, because probably a lot of you who are watching my videos to this day, who have seen my content before, would know I made the video ranking and breaking down all of the Miraculous Ladybug character designs for the superheroes, and I was not really a fan of the Capricid design initially, and if anyone follows me on my alt TikTok, you'd know that I really, really hate Miraculous Ladybug. But when the season 6 episode came out called The Ruler, and I started seeing things about it, I went and I watched it, and I was very, very surprised. I went in with all the expectations it was going to be awful, and it was great. I really loved that episode. So that convinced me to go and redraw the 2 characters that I care about. There's only 2 characters I care about in this show, and it's these 2. So I went and I drew Mark and Nathaniel in their season 6 designs. I drew both of them in their original akumatized designs, so Evil Illustrator and Reverser, and then I drew the both of them in their season 6 designs. These were fun. I got a multicolored pen while I was in Ireland, and so this was me having an absolute blast with this pen. I was having the time of my life. I love this pen. The blue is going to be so dead the next time I use it. We jump back into the collages. So this is one of the days that we were in Belfast. We visited the Titanic experience, which was my personal favorite part of the trip. It's very rare that I cry for things, but it was very, very hard to not walk out of there crying because of just how emotionally moving that entire museum and experience is. If you ever go to Ireland, you need to visit the Titanic experience. It was incredible. And so I have multiple maps, multiple brochures, lots of stuff from the souvenirs I got at the Titanic experience. So there's a lot here. The next one was when we went to Scotland for a few days, and we got to go onto Loch Ness, which is one of the things I wanted to do for my entire life. So we did a Scottish Highlands tour, we went to Loch Lomond, Loch Park, and then finally Loch Ness. So I took a ton of Polaroids while I was up there. Most of the stuff that I have here is actually from different things that I bought. So you can see some of the stuff that I bought, like I bought a duffel bag. This is one of the food snacks that I bought. This one is like a piece of clothing. This is another snack that I got. So a lot of different snacks and receipts and things like that, because I spent a lot of money in Scotland. A little bit more money than I should have spent, but it is what it is. I'm probably never going to get the chance to go back again until maybe, like, I don't know, 30 years in the future, so might as well embrace it. I can't exactly show what's on the next page because that's actually stuff I've done for a freelance project that I technically can't show yet, but eventually I'll be able to show that to you. So for now, we're going to bypass that page, and I'll show you this little set of art that I did of Aurora. I've drawn Aurora before realistically twice, and I've never been able to pinpoint how to draw her realistically. So I tried to draw her in my own style, and this is what came from it, and I'm very happy with this. I'm very glad I finally managed to capture Aurora in my style in a way that I actually really like. And then I drew her with Moomin here. I had this idea of a piece of her and Moomin walking together in starlight, and I decided to try drawing it, so I did. And then these are lifted from photos of her that I recreated. At least this one is, and this one is. This one was just a headshot, and then this one was a pose I created, and then I just drew her on top of it. But these ones, I had photo references, so that helped a lot. Moving onward, here I have some more artwork of Meriden and Corian, and this is the first time that I've drawn them interacting in a romantic way before, so yeah, I love it. It's very cute. I love this one so much. I did this one just a few days ago, and I'm so happy with it. They look so cute. This was very fun to do. I had a great time doing this one. And then moving on to some final pages. This is technically stuff I still can't show, so pretend you didn't just see that. Here I have some sketches of Sai because I really want to draw Sai eventually, and I felt like I needed a bit of practice with my facial angles. So did a little bit of practice there with that. And then the final page, I believe, is just more stuff for the project. This is something that I ended up not using, so I can show you that, but we're gonna have to consider the artwork of Meriden and Corian as the final page, which, let's end on my original characters. That's better anyway. So the next sketchbook has already been started, if you guys want to take a quick look at that. The next sketchbook, sketchbook number 7, is Sonic themed. So it has Sonic stickers on the front along with a couple other things like Miku and Twilight. And then the back is just a very silly Mothman sticker and some food and some snacks along with the Tism creature surrounding it. I don't want to spoil what's in here yet. You'll be able to see that during the next sketchbook tour, along with a video that may be coming in not too long. The little series I've been wanting to do for quite a long time. So keep your eyes out for that. But for now, thank you so much for being here to watch me walk through not one but 2 different sketchbooks. One for my Ireland tour and then one that is just my general sketchbook. I'm going to be doing so much more with my OCs. I have so much more planned for them. Again, along with my Naruto content, they are going to be the main thing that I'm doing moving forward. Again, writing a series of novels for them, so I'm very excited about that. But thank you, as always, for watching. You can like, comment, and subscribe if you feel so inclined. Be sure to check out my other social medias. Be sure to check out my Etsy and my new Squarespace shop hosted on my website. Viz Media did a massive Etsy sweep, and they took down a ton of Naruto listings, including my own. So I moved all of my Naruto listings over to my own Squarespace hosted site, because I don't want to get in trouble. So if you want to shop Naruto stuff, or anything relating to my OCs, go to my actual website, not my Etsy, because Etsy sucks. So go to my website if you want to support me directly. Thank you very much. I think that's all that I had to say. So again, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye, everybody.